that we recently got our signs up at the new Carp River Conservation Area, and so we can happily call it and promote it one of our conservation areas. Under corporate services, we're going to be working on the strategic plan staff. We've booked time this month to commence the process, and we're going to be issuing a terms of reference to get a consultant supporting us in that in the new year. Well, issuing it this year, but to commence work on that in the new year. Again, a lot of our effort is going to be focused on transitioning the organization. Communications will be providing support to all those things that I've spoken about, as well as helping to promote our new Eco-Trekker tool, which was developed for the Carp River conservation area, and which we're hoping to use at our other conservations over time in lieu of the education program. So we're enhanced where people can use their cell phones to do self-guided tours, or where teachers can bring their students on site themselves, and they're not relying on our staff to manage and take them through the site. So in addition to what had been identified in the IFP, we also assumed increases in user fees. So the plan reviews going from 135 to 148, and this is based upon the historic trend and the ongoing boom that we're continuing to see in the housing market, that just COVID or no COVID doesn't seem to be giving up. So we did feel reasonably comfortable in increasing the fee estimate for 2021. Our revenues for this year, despite having provided, was it a 50% discount? We have exceeded our budget, like our revenues. So despite having provided a 50% discount to people, we still exceeded our budgeted revenues for planning. That just goes to show you how incredibly busy people are, both building homes and us on the planning and permitting side of things, trying to give them the approvals to do so. So it's just been an incredible boom that we've been dealing with. So you'll see the increase in the permitting fees as well. And similarly, we've seen an increase of usage at our CA, and so we're thinking that the parking passes will also go up next year. I'm not going to go through this because I think we covered it adequately, you know, in the other, but this is the actual capital program and costs for 2021. And this shows you, you know, where and how the money's being spent and where the money's coming from. So when you look at the capital program on the left, that green area is basically funded by the gray and the red on the right, as well as the light blue at the, or pardon me, the green at the bottom. So you can see that, you know, a huge portion of our budget is associated with capital, and a lot of that is going to be coming through the WECI funding, our existing reserves, and debt financing. The general, the next point I want to make is the user fees is what's largely covering the planning reviews and regulations. There's a strong correlation between the work that we're doing on a fee-for-service basis and the fees we bring in. But as you can see, our fees do not fully cover the costs of doing planning review and regulations. Another highlight of this is, sadly, that provincial transfer, which is our Section 39 transfer, now only covers 2% of our total revenues. And this is the amount that, you know, historically the province covered upwards of 50% or more, and represents the downloading to municipalities over time that has occurred to pick up the costs for the watershed planning, the conservation services, the watershed management. So in summary, the totals here show you how the budget's changing from 2020 to 21. As I said earlier, the main pressure is that increase in cost for Shabamika Lake Dam. And this is the impact on the levies. So this reflects the percentage increases that the board approved back in September, and including that 2.5% increase on the capital levy. So I think that is it.
All right. Any questions or comments? Blue hands, please. I think it's because everybody's seen these before, right? I don't know. Maybe that works. Okay, Phil, I see a blue hand. Thank you. Phil Sweetnam. Phil, you're on mute and we can't see you.
I just wanted to comment. I noted that in correspondence with MPs and so on, we're seeing this year 53% of the budget is covered by local funds. That's only because there's a substantial amount of WECI funding this year. Traditionally, that's been about 70% and I'm interested. I've used 4% as the amount that the province covers, but it's only 2% is all. Is that what that the short transfer of around $144,000? I think it's down to now.
It's $128,000 that we received from the province under our Section 39. Now, of course, that pie segment it also includes other grants and contributions that we would get. Right? Yes. So in fact, the WECI, the Section 39 constitutes something less than 2% at this point.
Well, I guess my comment is to them as being for somebody who contributes so little, they expect a lot of control over issues such as the length of term that the board members may serve as chair and vice chair, etc. So anyway, if you're speaking with your MPs or writing them, be sure to mention those sort of facts. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments before we go to the resolution? I'm not seeing anything. You have a chance anyway again, so I'm going to read the resolution. Resolved that the Board of Directors receive the draft 2021 budget as attached and authorize it to be circulated to member municipalities for comment. Endorse the submission of grant applications that support the 2021 capital and operating programs as set out in the draft 2021 budget, and direct staff to update the interim financial plan, oh, here we go, and 10-year capital plan to reflect the 2021 budget as presented. I need someone to move. I see Jeff Atkinson moves. I see Glenn Gower seconds. Any questions or comments before we go? All in favor? Okay, the motion is carried. Well done, Sally and Angela and staff, for an incredibly complex budgeting process. Because I think this is my fifth one or fourth one or sixth one I've been through. I've never seen one like this. It's like, I'm amazed you're able to keep it all in your head. All right, so next we go to very quickly the 2020 year-end contributions to and from reserves. It's a staff report that we need to approve. All right, Angela.
Hello, thank you very much. Okay, so at the end of 2020, it looks like I've been predicting in our staff budget control reports to you that we thought we were going to be in a position of 58,000 or so at the last quarterly report of a deficit. Because of the continued strong permit and planning revenues and our conservation areas revenues that have just maintained so well, that we're only looking at a deficit now of just over 20,000. So we're looking more favorable. 27,000 is what we're at our newest estimate. So what I'd like to do is have a motion presented to the board so that we can transfer our deficit if we end up at the end of the year still maintaining a deficit, pull that from the operating reserves as that's what it's been developed from, is from past year's surpluses. And if by chance our revenues are still favorable up until December 31st, enough to offset that deficit, if we end up with a small surplus, is to be able to put those surplus funds back into the operating reserve for future years if we ever need it. As well, some unspent capital that didn't proceed this year. I'd just like a motion to approve the transfer of those capital unspent capital levy dollars back into the respective levy accounts into those reserves. So vehicles and equipment reserve is 63,500. It was levied through the capital. It was funds that were raised through the capital levy. So I'd just like to put them into the capital levy reserve so that, or capital reserve for vehicles so that we can use it in the future. Same thing as information management, $3,500 is looking like it's unspent at the end of the year to put into the IT reserve. And our conservation area for not proceeding with the Roy Brown Park lookout this year in 2020, we'll propose to place those funds into the reserve and pull it back in 2021 or whenever we proceed with that project. And the water control structure reserve, whatever's left over, looking like right now of levied dollars of 6,500 to put into the water control structure reserve. So that is my ask.
All right. Are there any questions or comments for Angela before we go to the motion? All right, Faye, go ahead. And you're on mute. Faye, you're still on mute. There you
How
go.
much was in the Roy Brown, or was that part of the $6,500 in the Roy Brown Park Reserve?
Sorry, there's no reserve for the Roy Brown Park. We'd just like to put it into the conservation area reserve at the end of the year. And that way, Town of Carleton Place, we put in and asked them because they match our dollars up to 5,000 per year. So I've asked the Town of Carleton Place to also place their dollars into a reserve or hold on to it and hopefully release it to us next year for 10,000 instead. So see what they come back with.
For 10,000.
Yeah, if they
Okay.
hold their 5 this year and 5 next year.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? All right. So the resolution resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes any unspent capital levy dollars as of December 31, 2020, be transferred to their respective capital reserves for future capital needs, and authorizes that if the authority has an operating deficit for year ending December 31, 2020, this deficit is to be funded from the operating reserve, and if the year-end position results in a surplus, that the surplus funds be placed into the operating reserve for future needs of the authority. So I need someone to move. Need someone to move. Okay, I see Kirby Thompson. Bev Holmes, I seconded by Bev Holmes. Thank you, Bev. You're sitting in the darkness, so I could barely see you. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Motion is carried. All right, Sally, we're down to 10 board members right now, just to let you know.
9 is quorum.
Yeah, I know, 9 is quorum. So the Watershed Public Advisory Committee, you wanted to quickly to discuss that?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether I'll just not use the PowerPoint at this point. So to save us time. So the bottom line here is that we have a really great group of committed individuals who represent a cross section of the watershed, both in terms of geography and expertise and economic sectors. And you know, their role has been to provide a sounding board to staff as well as critiques of draft documents and the like. And they've been a tremendous support to the team in undertaking the watershed plan. The question has been raised by some of them and ourselves is there a role for them to play going forward once we complete the plan sometime next year? And so the motion you have before you is for basically, I'm looking to see whether you're comfortable with us engaging with the board, the Public Advisory Committee members on a potential role for them in terms of implementation of the watershed plan. That I didn't want to go there, quite frankly, unless you felt comfortable with me doing that. Our legislation allows us to strike such committees. Our own administrative bylaws allow us to, but they're obviously at the discretion of the board. And I wouldn't pursue this unless I thought, you know, I had board support for that. So I'm just looking for this motion for you to indicate whether or not you're comfortable with us even engaging in that conversation with them on a future role.
Questions or comments? John Carreau.
Thanks, Chair. I think it would be useful to add that the Public Advisory Committee has expressed interest in playing the role of an ambassador for the implementation of a watershed plan. I think when we've talked about a pilot project for stewardship, this is one of the things that a Public Advisory Committee is well suited to complement. And last but not least, at our last policy committee, we recognized that the changes that are going to come about because of provincial legislation really raises a larger question about possible roles for public advisory committees. So I think initially where I'm most comfortable in terms of having worked with them and you on this topic is to see a continued role with respect to implementing a watershed management plan and assisting with stewardship. Broader issues, I think, would be for later. But I could also say they are interested and they are committed. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments to the resolution? All right, resolved that the Board of Directors directs staff to consult with the Public Advisory Committee regarding its potential involvement during implementation of the watershed plan. May I see someone move? Paul Kehoe moves. And I see Bev Holmes seconding, waving the, thank you, Bev, I see you. Any more questions? All in favor? All right, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now, can I just ask again, who else is leaving? I believe, Faye, you're having to leave soon, and that gets us to 9. Does anyone else have to leave before noon? Okay, maybe we're going to be okay, so that'll get us to 9. All right, extension of the North Frontenac property option.
Okay, so here again, I'm going to skip the PowerPoint for time. So you'll recall that we have an option to purchase agreement with North Frontenac for the Palmerston Beach. We renewed it last year because of delays in resolving land ownership issues. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has continued to pose problems. All the paperwork is done. Janet and I executed it earlier this year with the board's direction, but we have yet to be able to get the other landowners to actually execute the agreements and to register the documents. So basically, we're looking for an extension. The township did send me a notification that they would like to exercise the right to extend the contract by the deadline stipulated in the contract. So I'm just looking for board direction to move forward to renew that agreement with the township.
All right. So no questions or comments. I'm going to read the resolution. Resolved that the board authorize extension of the existing option to purchase agreement with the Township of North Frontenac for Palmerston Beach to December 31st, 2021. I need someone to move. Jeff Atkinson moves. Phil Sweetnam seconds. Comments or questions? All in favor? Okay, I think the motion is carried. You guys aren't waving as diligently as before. Okay, that one's done. So we should be able to quickly get to the meeting schedule, the 2021 meeting schedule, which.
So and you can see the schedule as presented in the one-page report there. If there's any conflicts or problems, if people could let me know, otherwise we'll move forward with the schedule and we'll send out meeting requests to everybody so it's in your calendar.
Right, and we should emphasize that again, the December meeting is meant to be between 10 and 12, because I think that did surprise a few people, and we probably should put that in the future, because normally what we do is we have a lunch, we have a Christmas lunch, for those of you who aren't familiar. All right, resolved that the Board of Directors approve the proposed 2021 meeting schedule. I need someone to approve, or someone to move. Bill King moves. Paul Kehoe seconds. All in favor? All right, we're good with the meeting schedule. The meeting is carried, or sorry, the resolution is carried. And now the Christmas office closures, most important motion of the day. So you want to talk briefly to that?
So traditionally, this organization has shut its doors for that period. Of course, there are 24 hours, 24/7 staff who are available and on call for emergencies on the watershed, but the offices themselves are closed between Christmas and New Year's. And so we're typically closed at noon on the 24th and reopen after the new year. So staff usually take this as time off in form of either time off in lieu of overtime they put on in earlier in the year or as vacation time.
All right. I think it's well deserved. I know staff have been working hard. So resolved that the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority offices be closed for the holiday season from noon December 24 to the end of business day, December 31, 2020 inclusive. And we know that the holiday is New Year's, and so that would obviously be off as well. So I need someone to move. I see Phil Sweetnam moves. I see Kirby Thompson seconds. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And I know the last item is for information, but I know you really wanted to have the board review it. It was not one we were going to exclude. So
yes, and this one I will actually pull up the PowerPoint because I think it's important enough that I want to make sure that I give this item due credit to her time. Okay, this was talked about briefly at the PNP meeting, but I think it's important that everybody on the board be aware of where we're at with the KMP Bridge. So you'll recall that last year, or I guess earlier this year, we agreed to do an assessment, a safety assessment of the bridge. And we've received the results back, and basically they're telling us that not just the railings need to be replaced, but the decking. And that in addition to that, to maintain safe access across that we need to be putting guide rails on the north and south approaches as well. And it's not stated here explicitly, but they're telling us that the bridge does not meet the rating for the type of vehicles that have been using it, and that we need to put a weight restriction on the bridge. So in terms of the short-term goals, we've had extensive conversations with the snowmobile and other ATV recreational clubs, because they absolutely want to see this stay open for the season. And you may recall as well, we were in discussions with the snowmobile club last year because of insurance issues. So this just heightened concerns about insurance coverage. So my goal is to try to work with the snowmobile and ATV clubs to maintain this, because it's a major north-south route between the two clubs and is used extensively. But obviously we need to protect the interests of the organization of MVCA. So in terms of midterm objectives, though, we need to figure out what level of service we do want for that bridge going forward. And when I say we, I mean the collective we, in that there's any number of people who currently use that and have an interest in it. And as we've talked about disposing the asset over the long term, I think, we need to be engaging with future buyers like the County of Lanark and the County of Frontenac, and potentially also Renfrew County, to the extent that they may get involved in the long-term management of this asset. So just to give you a sense of kind of the cost we're looking at, the decking, depending on to what standard it's built to, it could be as little as $30,000 or as much as $125,000. The railings are for the system that just is useful for pedestrians, ATV, snowmobilers, is in the order of $20,000. But if you wanted to have, roadworthy vehicles licensed under the Highway Traffic Act, you're looking at something in the order of $36,000. And then there's all sorts of related works that the engineering firm has recommended that come to roughly $75,000. So I briefed the PNP on November 13, and on that basis, we've been in extensive discussions with the Snowmobile Club and by extension, the Ottawa Valley ATV Club. As well, I've reached out to both the counties of Frontenac and Lanark to see, is there a possibility for us to get funding from them? When I prepared this PowerPoint, I'd heard back from Frontenac that, sorry, their ICIP funding had already been allocated. I just recently heard back from Lanark, and the same is true with them. So the whole idea of trying to get stimulus funding through the counties to support this it's not in the cards right now, it would appear. However, both counties did continue to express interest in this asset, either for acquisition or long-term lease and management agreements down the road. So that was positive. We've also reviewed the draft insurance agreement or user agreement that includes insurance clauses with both our insurer as well as the Snow Road Snowmobile Club representative, and as well with our legal counsel. And we're feeling quite comfortable that we have an agreement that can address not just our historical concerns about, insurance coverage with the Snowmobile Club, but also the current concern regarding the bridge. And so our legal counsel is looking to create a schedule with us that all the parties can agree to. So where we're moving is to finalize that contract. We have prepared engineer drawings. We had funding in this year's budget to do that for replacement of the railing system to meet the needs to allow for continued recreational use of the facility. And the SRSC and the ATV Club have agreed collectively to carry out that work in accordance with our specifications at their cost, which is a tremendous, agreement that we've been able to get with them. They understand that we will inspect and either assume, agree to use of the asset based upon the works they've carried out. So we're liaising with our engineers on that for them to ultimately inspect and accept the works. And only once we've done that will they be allowed to post it as being open on their mapping system. They're also going to have to install various signs, and in addition to that, we will be posting our weight restriction. And in addition to that physical posting, I think we need to do due diligence to take every reasonable action to make sure that any potential regular users of the KMP and potentially that bridge is made aware. So we'll be issuing public notices, contacting all the companies that have ever had an agreement with us to use the KMP for logging, etc. Into early next year, though, I think we need to carry out in a public awareness and consultation program, making people aware that the decking needs to be replaced, that we need to figure out what the long-term use of that is. The costs are significantly different if we want to continue to make it accessible for logging trucks. It's a world of difference in the design and costs. And then once we've engaged with the public, I'm proposing to come back to you and tell you what we've heard and also the associated costs and whether or not any partners are coming to the table, because ultimately it will be your decision to determine when and how, and quite frankly, if we replace the decking and any assorted other mitigating actions that we might want to take before that asset is ultimately disposed. I explained to both the counties that the reason why we did this study in the first place was so that they could have knowledge about the state of the asset and the cost to bring it up to whatever standard it's deemed appropriate to bring it to for the purpose of disposal of the asset. And they both understood and saw the logic in the work that we've done. And we're pleased to hear that the Snow Road Snowmobile Club and others have come to the table to at least carry out the works necessary to allow for safe access across the bridge this winter by recreational vehicles and pedestrians. So that is that. I just really wanted to make sure that the board was aware of the condition of that bridge and the actions that we're taking to mitigate risk to the organization, and that we are working with partner organizations to provide this interim solution so that it can continue to be enjoyed this winter by the community. So happy to take any questions, if any.
All right, I see Phil has raised his hand, blue hand. Phil?
I believe it's really important to recognize this property was purchased as a trail. It's not our responsibility to have a road. A road is the responsibility of the municipality or whoever, but if we shouldn't be putting the decking on to a higher standard than what the snowmobiles and those sort of things required. We're not responsible to bring it up to a standard that has that highway vehicles could use. I know if the current condition of the thing allows somebody with a station wagon or something like that on it, or whatever, a vehicle, that's fine. But we shouldn't be going ahead and trying to make it accessible for logging trucks. They've been, the snowmobiles have been wonderful partners. The snowmobile clubs have been wonderful partners. I don't think the logging people have done any more than utilize it rather than pay their fair share of the way of maintaining that trail. So don't go ahead and put the decking on unless there's adequate funding from elsewhere. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we're at that stage yet, Phil. I think all she's indicated is that there's a railing that will be paid for and put in by the snowmobile clubs, and that any other future improvements will be coming back to the board, if any. And I think that is a real question, Sally, whether we want to do anything before selling this asset. And yeah, we need a fulsome discussion by the board before we do anything. So I think that's the point you're making. Right. Any other questions or comments?
If I could just, in my experience over the long time we've owned this property, the real need in the area is for a road. It's not for a trail. So, but those are not the responsibility of a conservation authority. That's the responsibility of the municipality.
All right. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So if there's no more questions and comments, I think that does it for our agenda for today. So items 14 for 16 will be received for information. And we need to adjourn this meeting, and then I need you guys to stay on the line, because then I have to convene a Source Protection Authority meeting, because there's a number of things that need to be approved. So I need someone to move. Resolve that the Board of Directors meeting be adjourned. John Carreau moves. And I see Bev Holmes again. Bev Holmes seconds. All in favor? Gotta see those hands, people. I need a quorum. Okay, great. All in favor? It looks like we are. So the Board of Directors meeting has now adjourned. And I wish you a Merry Christmas before we get to the next meeting. All right, next meeting. So we're now going to convene the Source Protection Authority meeting. And we need a roll call. I don't know if you need a roll call. Actually, we do. We need to make sure we have the quorum, but rather than go through it, let's just see everyone we have.
Yeah, actually, Marika, you'll have to unshare because I can't see everybody.
We need to just quickly share see who we've got. So I was hoping to make that quick.
Sorry, I'll just do that.
Maybe I'll say who I think is still on the phone. Paul Kehoe is.
I can go down the list. Oh, here we go. All right. So here we go.
So Paul is still on the phone. Teresa is not on the phone. I don't see Teresa.
She left. Teresa and Krista left.
Jeff is on. John is not. Roxanne isn't. Kirby is on. Bill, you're still on. Yes, you are. Ellen is not. Faye, you're still on. Okay. Krista has left. Bev, you're still on. Gary's not. Phil, you're still on. John's on. Eli's not. Janet and Glenn. There you are. Okay, done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great.
All right, so next we need the adoption of the agenda. So you would have received the agenda for the Source Protection Authority meeting. Resolved that the agenda for the 2 December 2020 Source Protection Authority meeting be adopted as presented. So I can't see people's hands when you're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to see who's moving, and I can't see that. All right, so can I see someone move? Phil Sweetnam moves. Jeff Atkinson seconds. All in favor? All right, that motion for the agenda is carried. And now we need to get to the minutes. So again, you received the minutes in your package from our last meeting. Resolved that the minutes of the Mississippi Valley Source Protection Authority meeting held on the 15th of April 2020 be received and approved as printed. Need someone to move. I see John Carreau move. Jeff Glengower seconds. All in favor? Motion carried. All right, and now we are going to any business arising from the minutes? I guess not. Now we can go to governing policy and rules update. And there will be a resolution related to this. So now you can share your screen, Marika. Thank you. So welcome to Marika.
I'll refrain from sharing the screen just so that you can see who's participating. But can you hear me okay? No. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I've had some troubles with my mic on my laptop. So good morning, Ms. Chair, board members and staff. Thanks for having me back. I returned from maternity leave in September and I replaced Kestrel Reget. Did a great job covering for me. This is our third and final Source Protection Authority meeting for 2020. We have 2 agenda items to cover today, starting with agenda item number 2. So under the Clean Water Act, every Source Protection Committee in Ontario must prepare rules of procedure, code of conduct, and conflict of interest policies. In March, new restrictions surrounding in-person meetings required quick thinking for many committees. Fortunately, we were able to hold virtual meetings in accordance with our policies where an emergency had been declared. However, it's a good idea to update our virtual meetings policies to permit virtual meetings outside of emergency scenarios, such as severe or threatening weather. A revised copy of the governing policies was attached for your review and consideration. Specifically, policy 2.3.3 was revised and policy 2.5.8 was inserted. Once approval is finalized, copies will be circulated to our committee members. Thank you.
So essentially what we're approving is to allow electronic meetings to continue to be held and also to be held in case of inclement weather at the base on the right.
Yes, and if the state of emergency is removed, then we're also permitted to continue holding these meetings until we feel comfortable in person.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments for Marika on that? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. I think, yeah, we still have everybody. So with the resolution, resolved that the Mississippi Valley Source Protection Authority approve the revised governing policies. I need someone to move. I see Faye Campbell. I see Kirby Thompson. I see Paul Kehoe. Paul Kehoe is waving his hand. So seconded by Paul. Any more comments? All in favor of the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. So on to the second, or really the fourth item on the agenda, your section 34 amendments.
Our last agenda item is initiating 3 amendments under section 34 of the Clean Water Act.
And your microphone is really
Quiet.
there you go.
Our last agenda item is initiating 3 amendments under section 34 of the Clean Water Act. Before we can start receiving and reviewing technical work for these amendments, we need to initiate the process by presenting.
Okay,
Is it better?
Yeah, that's better right there.
Thank you.
No.
So in order to review the technical work for these amendments, we need to initiate the process by presenting the preliminary changes to the committees.
You're just barely audible. Could you make some adjustment there?
Let me see what I can do. I'm sorry.
No.
You were okay, you were okay when you did the previous presentation.
I tried changing my microphone pickup.
There.
That's
Right.
perfect
Great.
now.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, before we can start receiving and reviewing the technical work for these amendments, we need to initiate the process by presenting this information to the committees and to the authorities. We've submitted 2 section 34 amendments already. This would be our 3rd and 4th amendments. The following items are proposed. The Lemieux Island Intake Improvement Project was initiated as an amendment in April 2019, so this is just an update to you on progress. The project is to create a new intake for the City of Ottawa since the existing intake was having issues with frazzle ice buildup. The existing intake will be maintained as backup. This project was put on hold last year, but City of Ottawa staff have informed us that it's now moving forward. So moving on, we were previously notified of a developer-driven well in Kemptville in the municipality of North Grenville. This summer, we were advised that the project is proceeding. The developer and the municipality have retained a consultant and have begun technical work. And finally, the last amendment is policy focused. Our risk management staff each year report on difficulties implementing our legally binding residential fuel oil policy with a risk management plan requirement. Staff are recommending a policy revision. Staff are having challenges communicating with homeowners, obtaining access to fuel oil tanks, and maintaining homeowner compliance with reporting requirements. Policy options will be explored and will be brought to the committee and to the authority in later months for discussion. With that being said, the Clean Water Act and its respective regulations set out the regulatory process for the amendment. So once the technical work is completed, we will proceed with the consultation process and source protection committees and authorities will be updated. Thank you. That's all for that report.
Thank you very much. So we have 3 additions that you are looking for approval to. So looking for approval for. Right. Are there any questions or comments from Marika on those 3 additions? All right. So the resolution resolved that the Mississippi Valley Source Protection Authority received the update in staff report SPA 74/20 to initiate upcoming amendments. I need someone to move. Jeff Atkinson moves. John Carreau seconds. All in favor? Motion carried. All right, are there any other questions or anything else you'd like to say, Marika? Is that?
That's all, but I really apologize for the.
No, it's okay. I appreciate you doing the updates with such alacrity because we were really pressed for time today. And thank you for all your hard work on the Source Protection Authority. Because again, I always say we know how important it is. So thank you. All right. Yes, John, that's right. So resolved that the Source Protection Authority meeting be adjourned. I need someone to move. See Faye Campbell. Second, Glenn Gower. All in favor of adjourning the meeting? All right. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Sorry for having to we really had to rush our way through this today, but thank you very much. And I wish you all a very happy holiday season. I know we will all be working very hard up until then and probably after, right, Sally? But I wish you a safe and happy holiday season. It's been a pleasure seeing you virtually for the last few months. And I really hope we can get together in person next year sometime. That's one of my Christmas wishes.
Yes.
It's much more personal to interact when you can actually look across a table at somebody. So thank you everybody for your dedication.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to you all.
Happy holidays, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.